part of my story, and for that I am grateful. So without further ado, from my heart to yours,
every state and all demographics have been tragically impacted by what is currently referred to as the opioid epidemic. In Massachusetts alone, for the first 6 months of 2018, there are 657 confirmed opioid-related overdose deaths, and the Department of Public Health estimates that there will be an additional 322 to 396 deaths. 2017 marked the first year in half a decade that opioid-related deaths have decreased. In fact, there is a 4% decrease in opioid-related overdose death rates from 2016. However, the overdose death rate has increased nearly 4 times since 2011. And, with a more recent increase in fentanyl-related overdoses, we are not yet sure overdose deaths will continue to decrease over the next few years.
Fentanyl is a Schedule II drug that has very limited medical use. It stimulates opioid receptors in the brain, like heroin, but is human-made through chemicals and formulated to be 100 to 120 times stronger than morphine. Since 2014, the use of illicitly manufactured fentanyl has dramatically increased.
In the first quarter of 2018, heroin, or likely heroin, was present in approximately 34% of all opioid-related deaths that had a toxicology screen. 89% had a positive screen for fentanyl. This is most likely illicitly produced and sold, not prescription fentanyl.
My name is Jared Owen. I'm the communications coordinator for MORE, the Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery. We're out in the Massachusetts community to educate, and we're out here to advocate. So our education takes the form of classes for people early in recovery to help them overcome barriers. We also do a great deal of policymaker education. So we try to be a voice for recovery in policy decisions. We believe that we got in this epidemic, and we got into a lot of bad situations by not listening to affected people when we made the policies. Most of the people that become involved in our criminal justice system, including myself, are there because of addictions. Last year, opioid overdose killed more people than suicides, car accidents, and gun violence combined in Massachusetts. It's 2,000 people last year in Massachusetts. That's 5 or 6 people per day. I asked people to imagine what the governmental and the societal response would be if the Zika virus were killing 5 or 6 people per day. That's not what it has been, and that's because of stigma, and that boils down to our preconceived notions about people's addictions being a matter of choice and about the weakness of the people that have addictions and somewhat their inability to change.
One of the most challenging aspects of recovery is being vocal. Those that have been through long-term treatment often find it difficult to publicly speak out about their experiences without facing discrimination. In an effort to raise awareness about the stigma facing those in recovery and to help people see addiction and treatment in a different way, Elizabeth Addison created This is Treatment, a musical about recovery featuring actors with lived experience.
So my name is Elizabeth Addison. I am a composer, lyricist, playwright, librettist, producer, entrepreneur, and I'm also a recovering addict. I don't know many addicts who just like, hey, let me pick up drugs and become an addict. That's not necessarily the trajectory that we see ourselves on. But a lot of us used to make ourselves feel better, right? And I think that sometimes if we can think of that in that sort of term, just something so innocent, right? Because we're all at some point seeking to feel better for whatever reason. And we use whatever it is to make ourselves feel that way, to get to whatever it is that we want to feel. I used for a host of reasons. I was lost. I was suffering from depression. I was suffering from anxiety. I was suicidal at various points in my life. I struggled with an eating disorder. I struggled with feelings of low self-esteem, low confidence, low self-worth. I didn't love myself. And I just wanted to shut all those things up. And I wasn't taught how to do that in a healthy manner, you know? And I think a lot of us aren't taught how to do that in a healthy manner. Once I started this path of recovery, I started figuring out how to realize the dreams that I had, how to heal myself, you know, how to, all these different things that wasn't taught, that we're not taught in our society in general. In our society, we're taught to sort of just take things from outside of ourselves, try to make ourselves feel better, and in the meanwhile, we're still empty, right? So yeah, I don't know anybody who necessarily started because they didn't, on some basic level, want to just feel better.
In 1994, Purdue Pharmaceuticals introduced this new formulation of a drug that was called OxyContin, that they advertised to doctors as a less addictive form of a drug that was already out there, which was oxycodone. Unfortunately, that was a lie, and they knew it was a lie. Doctors increased their prescribing rates. You know, doctors were encouraged to prescribe these strong opioid drugs, not just for end of life and major surgical pain, but for minor injuries. For instance, I dropped a dumbbell on my toe when I was 14 years old. I walked out of an emergency room with a script for 60 Vicodin pills with a refill. This shouldn't be happening. That put so many opioid pills on the street, and so many kids tried their first opioid from one of these prescriptions that they either got themselves or that was stolen from a family member. And while not everybody gets addicted right then, the more people that are trying these drugs, the more people that are going to go back to them and eventually have a problem. As publicly held corporations, you know, their job is to make money for shareholders. So how do you pin down the one person who's responsible? And I think that we should do everything possible to find those people that willfully did this because they really do have blood on their hands.
My message is brief. Purdue killed my son. It's just very simple. Purdue killed my boy. I keep with me all the time a picture of Austin when he was 3 years old. All he wanted, all he deserved was to grow up and have a life. Just a simple life. To be a brother, to be a dad maybe, to be a husband hopefully, to be a member of society.
In the summer of 2018, Dominic Esposito put an 800-pound bent heroin spoon in front of the headquarters of Purdue Pharma as a protest against Purdue's prominent role in the manufacturing and marketing of addictive and potentially deadly opioid medications.
My brother's addicted to opioids and now is a heroin addict and has been in and out of jail for years, all because of them.
My name is Dominic Esposito. I'm the artist who made the burnt heroin spoon. We took this spoon, it's about 800 pounds, about 10 feet long in length, and we dumped it in front of Purdue Pharma, one of the architects and probably the largest architect of the opioid epidemic that this country finds itself in. It's taken the lives of close to 300,000 people, 20 million and counting addicted, and we need to stop availability of all these opioids so readily available at every doctor's office. And the only way to do this is not with lawsuits, but with criminal prosecution. So we hope that this spoon raises awareness, that sort of weight. So it's a difficult to move and to show just how big of a drug dealer Purdue Pharma effectively is.
It is difficult to determine the number of people that have become addicted as a result of prescription opioids. It is even more difficult to quantify the pain and suffering that friends and families endure when speaking out about the loss of their loved ones. There are still many in recovery that have little to no support, and that can often be attributed to bias, a feeling of prejudice against those hoping to recover.
Hi, I'm Patty Contenti, and I'm currently the director of the CORE program at the Somerville Police Department. CORE stands for Community Outreach, Help, and Recovery, and it's a civilian unit within the police department that does follow-up and outreach for any calls for service that have to do with behavioral health. There's no particular profile of who's impacted by this illness. And so that brings up kind of the concept of bias. Humans are complex individuals. So how can you separate, when you talk about bias, is it against class, gender, sexual orientation? These things don't exist separately. And you see that with people struggling with substance use disorder addiction.
And these are really difficult things to deal with. These are things like poverty, lack of housing, lack of educational opportunities, social isolation, mental illness. There's mental illness underlying most addictions.
They may have a trauma history that has contributed to their illness. They may be of color. There's all kinds of things that get mixed together that contribute to opiate misuse.
None of this happened 10 years ago. None of this happened really 5 years ago. But by facing the biggest fear in your life, each and every one of you have created change.
Really, things shifted when white males became impacted, right? It wasn't until middle class, upper middle class families were impacted by this epidemic that a lot of attention was paid to it.
This epidemic has affected people that look like me, rich white kids from the suburbs. So we have a whole different set of socioeconomic strata being brought into this conversation. And because it's the higher strata that are the policymakers, we're seeing things change more rapidly and more towards treating addiction as the public health issue that it is, rather than relegating it to a criminal issue and trying to sweep it under the rug and keep it away.
It's important for me to put that message out there, to put a face on, because we see the face of addiction, we see it on the news, we hear it in our newspapers.
There's a lot of folks from every background suffering with this problem.
Here's the thing, addiction does not discriminate, right? No matter your walk of life, no matter your socioeconomic background, no matter your race, no matter your gender, no matter your sexuality, religion, it does not discriminate. And I think that what I'm finding problematic with the way addiction is being represented right now is that it looks primarily like a white, affluent problem, right? Where are the people of color? Now all of a sudden it's, they're sick and they need help and they need to go to treatment and they need our compassion and our understanding. This is true, right? This is true, but it needs to be afforded to all the people struggling with addiction, not just a certain few, right? And I think that that's why within my own work and why I'm so vocal about my experience and about the show that I'm creating is that everybody should be afforded that sort of same understanding and that same access to treatment. Yes, the opioid epidemic is an epidemic, and we need to address it as such, and people need treatment and people need help, but we need to represent the whole of it.
So when we think about bias, we continue to have a lot of biases. There's a bias around they're never going to do it. We really need to have faith that people can do it, and they can. We don't know the many people who have overcome addiction because they don't wear a sign or a t-shirt that says, I did it. It impacts anyone. And anyone can get better. I truly, truly believe that.
National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day is an initiative to encourage individuals to appropriately dispose of their unused or expired medications at prearranged drop-off sites throughout the community. In Somerville, we offer several drop-off sites that are accessible to all residents, such as the police station, fire station, and local pharmacies. Today is National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. It is an event that is held twice a year, once in April and once in October. The event is to encourage individuals to dispose of medications safely at locations that have kiosks. In Somerville, all residents and businesses also have the opportunity to receive free overdose prevention and Narcan administration training.
You do the full amount, and that's enough typically for the average individual. Some people have asked, do we just do breaths? Do we do compressions? What's the preferred choice? Seems like a lot of it is mixed. Some people are saying breath, because it needs the oxygen to the brain. Other people are saying just the chest compressions. I would say do CPR to the best extent of your training. So if you've been CPR trained.
The opioid epidemic is not exclusive to one region. It does not affect one demographic, and it does not have a one-size-fits-all solution. This issue is incredibly complex on a national, regional, and local scope. However, there are a variety of resources available. Here in Somerville, the city developed clear initiatives and efforts aimed to target the crisis. From statewide and citywide lawsuits, to overdose prevention and Narcan administration trainings, to prescription drug take-back days, the city is taking action, trying to dismantle the stigma around opioid use and bridge the worlds of addiction and recovery. We are all human. We all make mistakes. But it's important to know that all individuals can recover and be a positive part of our community. We don't always know everyone's past, but we can take a moment to learn and help be a part of the solution. We are all in this together, from my heart to yours.
Learn how you can help prevent prescription opioid abuse and misuse by visiting the City of Somerville's Health and Human Services Department webpage. And find out how to prevent and address substance abuse in the Somerville community by following the Somerville Cares About Prevention page. This video was made by Somerville Media Center in partnership with the City of Somerville. Animation, narration, and fentanyl information provided by Matthew Mitchell, Prevention Services Manager with the City of Somerville's Health and Human Services Department. Current opioid statistics provided by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and Meredith Willis, Senior Crime Analyst, Somerville Police Department. Acknowledgements to those who shared their knowledge and experiences. Joanne Ravicchio, founder of Somerville Overcoming Addiction. Jared Owen, Communications Coordinator for the Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery. Patricia Contente, Director of Community Outreach and Harm Reduction for the City of Somerville. Elizabeth Addison, founder of This Is Treatment, LLC. And Dominic Esposito, artist. Music provided by Forest Management and Daphne Willis.